Come to order. Good morning and welcome everyone to the organizational meeting for the 119th Congress. This Congress in particular comes at a very critical time for this committee and the American taxpayer. In just 6 days, President Trump will take the oath of office and spark a new era of American prosperity. The Ways and Means Committee will be central to delivering relief to Americans after 4 years of sky-high prices, high interest rates, and high uncertainty. This committee has a responsibility to make sure taxes do not go up on over 200 million filers in this country. Let's be clear, if Congress does not act, tax rates go up on every single American family, regardless of income level. The child tax credit would be cut in half. The standard deduction cut in half. The alternative minimum tax comes back to impact millions of families. The death tax snaps back in, and small businesses will pay a 43% tax rate. We have no time to waste. This committee will also have a long list of priorities throughout our jurisdiction to deliver on for the American people. We will fight the unfair treatment by foreign governments of American farmers, workers, and businesses, and open the door for more Made in America products to be sold around the world. We will grow and make more of the things we need here in the United States, reducing our dependency on China and other adversaries. We will expand patient access to the best health care, especially for rural communities. We will champion the most vulnerable in our society, including our children and seniors. Our work for the future is built on this committee's success in the previous Congress. We passed bipartisan tax legislation 40-3 in this committee and then passed the bill with 82% support on the House floor. It's been about a decade since that last happened. First in a generation, bipartisan child welfare reform advanced by this committee became law. It gave children in tough circumstances a greater chance of living in a safe, stable home and helping parents and other caregivers give the resources they need to care for their kids. We advanced pro-patient, pro-innovation healthcare policies to enhance access to quality care in every part of the country. We reasserted Congress's authority over trade, including greenlighting a trade agreement with Taiwan. Tomorrow, the House will take the next step and approve legislation that gives American workers and businesses fair tax treatment with Taiwan in our effort to boost American manufacturing jobs and the production of critical technologies like semiconductors while reducing our dependency on China. That was just the start. Our oversight agenda fought abuses of the tax code wherever present. After the October 7th attack by Hamas terrorists on the people of Israel, this committee conducted an investigation for months and developed legislation that ensures the tax code does not subsidize anti-Semitism at home and terrorism abroad. As laid out in the oversight plan we will mark up later, we will continue aggressive investigations on behalf of all taxpayers to protect their hard-earned dollars from waste, fraud, and abuse. In all our work, we listen to the workers, the families, the farmers, and small businesses of America. We held 14 hearings all around the country to hear from folks in their communities. Republican tax teams picked up the baton and crisscrossed the country too, holding over 120 listening sessions in 20 states to hear directly from Americans about how we can build on the Trump tax cuts. In this Congress, we will continue to put the concerns of America's working class first, the people who wake up, go to work, and come home to take care of their families and neighbors every day in communities across the country. These people will continue to be our top priority at the Ways and Means Committee. The Ways and Means Committee truly is the best, most important committee in Congress. There is not a single American who's not affected by the work that we do at this dais. Our responsibilities are spelled out in the Constitution, and the history of this committee, since its start in 1789, it tracks the history of America. The framers gave the House of Representatives the power to originate revenue bills in order to ensure greater power for the people over how they are taxed. It is the responsibility of this committee to protect that constitutional right for the House on behalf of the American people. And it is only as chairman I do not take lightly. Today, members of this committee, both Republicans and Democrats, represent the best that Congress has to offer. These colleagues are tireless in finding ways to improve the lives of those that they represent and all Americans. To my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, Republicans will work with you to achieve bipartisan wins when possible. We have a big responsibility to tackle the equally big challenges facing our fellow Americans. We must make the most of this opportunity and enact a pro-worker, pro-growth agenda that will deliver on the policies President Trump has championed and the American people have demanded. I look forward to rolling up our sleeves and getting to work. Before I recognize the ranking member, I want to introduce the new members of this committee. This committee has a storied history of members who later went on to serve at some of the highest positions of American leadership. No less than James Madison, America's fourth president and father of the Constitution, served on the first Ways and Means Committee. 8 Ways and Means members have gone on to become president of the United States. 8 have become vice president. 21 have served as Speaker of the House, and 4 became Supreme Court justices. I know these new members will help carry this proud tradition. Rudy Yocum continues the legacy of representation from Indiana's 2nd Congressional District on the Ways and Means. His predecessor, Jackie Walorski, was a beloved and deeply valued member of this committee whose service made a difference for families, children, and workers. Rudy's background in the private sector and northern Indiana's status as a manufacturing powerhouse will help this committee ensure America's workers and manufacturers grow and win again. Max Miller has devoted his life to serving his country. First, for 6 years in the Marine Corps Reserves, and then in the first Trump White House. His district encompasses both Fortune 500 employers and Ohio's rural farmland, giving him a unique perspective into different parts of our economy. At the start of the second Trump administration, Max will help us build on the success of the Trump tax cuts and make them permanent. Aaron Bean has built 4 small businesses and is a former Florida state representative, state senator, and now Northeast Florida's representative in Congress. His background will be invaluable as we help small businesses expand, create new jobs, and invest in their communities. Another title he wears is that of auctioneer. Having worked as a professional auctioneer for over 10 years, I look forward to seeing that skill set on full display when another former auctioneer, our next IRS Commissioner, Billy Long, comes to testify before this committee. Nathaniel Moran brings the values of faith, family, and hard work to Congress. He learned growing up in rural East Texas. He served his neighbors as a local attorney and then on the Tyler City Council. Nathaniel's background and service to Texas will be an asset in ensuring we protect rural America and main streets across the country when we restore and build on the Trump tax cuts. On the Democrat side of the aisle, we have several familiar faces that are returning back to us. Brendan Boyle serves as the ranking member of the Budget Committee, a job which I'm familiar with. With his return and Dwight Evans' continued service on the Ways and Means, the city of brotherly love is well represented on this committee. Stacey Plaskett, she is a very strong leading voice for the citizens of American territories especially the people of her home of the U.S. Virgin Islands, and we are pleased to have you back on the committee. And last but certainly not least, it's good to have Tom Suozzi back on the dais. Even when he wasn't assigned to the Ways and Means, he would still frequent our hearings and activity. We are glad that you no longer have to watch from the audience. Please join me in giving a warm welcome for the new members of the Ways and Means Committee. I'm pleased to recognize the ranking member from Massachusetts, Mr. Neal, for his opening statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As I begin, one of the responsibilities of this committee is to raise the debt ceiling. We will acknowledge this morning the wildfires in California have been devastating. And I know I speak for all of us when I say that Congresswoman Chu and Sanchez and Congressman Gomez, we are all sorry for your losses in your particular districts. But I must say, Mr. Chairman, I saw Speaker Johnson's comments on conditioning aid on the debt ceiling. That violates the national principle. I was here on this committee when the awful fires plagued Alabama. I never asked once, how did Alabama vote? I voted for the money without any qualifications. We can have the argument afterwards. Those people need help right now. I hope that this committee, as you noted in your comments, rising above the battles of partisanship, will come to the aid of those people in California who are, we're witnessing night after night, morning after morning, the devastation that they have to live with. And I hope we will not be conditioning aid to the state of California based on raising the national debt. So as the start of this Congress, this should be a time of renewal and reflection, particularly on what we've been entrusted to do, as the chairman noted, on this dais. It's the breadth of this responsibility that guides us to bold, clear priorities, a mission that is to level the playing field for all members of the American family. Through our history, the Committee on Ways and Means has always risen to the moment, as we have noted frequently. We have led some of the most significant legislation on record. And let me point out, as Joe Biden departs, he has been no exception. We acted decisively and deliberately for the American family. We ushered in a new economy with the American Rescue Package. We reinvigorated our manufacturing and construction industries with the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the CHIPS and Science Act. We lowered costs in the Inflation Reduction Act and prescription drugs. We championed workers' rights and expanded health care access to record numbers. We protected pensions and paved the way for a fairer, sustainable future. Joe Biden notched himself a new record last week, the only president in American history to create jobs every single month of his term. This is one of the best job creation stories in our history. We did not see that same level of action and bipartisanship with the Republican majority. We saw many bills come through the committee, some that had merit for sure, and with proper consultation and input could have perhaps become bipartisan achievements for all of us. But we saw many of those pieces of legislation fail as they made it to the House floor. We should not have an extreme agenda. We should measure item after item, and we should refrain from the chaos, conspiracies, and the cuts that we are sure to be discussing soon. Our Republican colleagues have the keys at the moment, but our economy's resilience and strength will also be part of their responsibility. Your decisions and your promises will be recalled and remembered, and we all know elections are always just around the corner with two-year terms. I want to welcome back our new members as well. I want to welcome back Brendan Boyle, Stacey Plaskett, and Tom Suozzi, and certainly to Aaron Bean, Max Miller, Nathaniel Moran, and Rudy Yakum of Indiana. This is a very important assignment that you will have for the next few years. We all come to this committee to do big things. We want to thank all of you for your service. And with that, let me yield back my time.
Thank you. We now turn to the first item on today's agenda, adoption of the Ways and Means Committee rules for the 119th Congress. Each member received a copy of the proposed new rules along with a green sheet noting the changes from the 118th Congress in advance of the meeting. This rules package is in line with past precedent regarding the operation and legislative processes of the Ways and Means Committee and will allow us to quickly and judiciously deliver on the issues in our jurisdiction on behalf of the American people. The update to Rule 15 allows the chair to consider member attendance at the start of a hearing in conjunction with seniority for purposes of recognition of members to question witnesses. The change aligns the rules to committee practice, and in keeping with committee precedent, the chair will continue to consult with the ranking member on question order for the other side of the dais. Last year, this committee traveled the nation, listened to American workers, small businesses, and farmers to hear the problems that they face with the areas in our jurisdiction, including the U.S. tax code, international trade programs, as well as the Social Security and American health care systems. Thanks to their testimony, we now have a blueprint to improve the lives of all Americans. It's time for the rubber to meet the road this Congress. This rules package ensures efficiency in our committee processes, allowing us to build upon the solid foundation established last Congress. I respectfully encourage all members of the committee to support the rules of the committee for the 119th Congress to ensure that our committee can fulfill our duties to those we represent and all Americans. Thank you, and I'm pleased to recognize the ranking member from Massachusetts, Mr. Neal, for his remarks.
Thank you, Chairman. Your explanation was better than the print suggestion on how people will be recognized. And I just must say that I think the Gibbons rule has served us all pretty well here. You're recognized in the order in which you came in and sat down. It encourages attendance on time, which is a big issue for all of us on the committee. But I want to make sure here that as we honor that notion and we allow people to ask questions, that we would not suggest, other than yielding our own time to somebody who might wish to speak, and consistent with the argument one is trying to make, I want to make sure that we're not suggesting here for one moment that if somebody is perhaps out of tone with the chairman's position, that we would call on another Republican rather than a Democrat in the standing order. Is that your understanding?
Definitely, unless we're in the 2-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, which is fine.
And then that's the only difference, but absolutely.
Okay, so I would say that your explanation was far better than the print edition.
We'll work on the print edition. Thank you. The committee will now proceed to consideration of the committee rules for the 119th Congress. Without objection, the rules will be considered as read and open for amendment at any point. I will now turn to Molly Fromm, General Counsel and Parliamentarian, to provide a description of the proposed changes to the rules. I ask that members hold their questions until after her presentation.
Chairman Smith, Ranking Member Neal, and members of the committee, I will provide a brief overview of the proposed changes to the rules of the Committee on Ways and Means. First, under Rule 8A, the ratio for the Subcommittee on Trade would be changed from 19 members to 21 members, 12 of whom shall be Republicans and 9 of whom shall be Democrats. Next, Rule 15 would be changed to allow the chair to consider member attendance at the start of a hearing in conjunction with seniority for purposes of recognition of members to question witnesses. That concludes my presentation, and I welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions about the proposed changes to the rules? Does anyone wish to strike the last word?
Mr. Davis.
Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to strike the last word. You know, I really enjoy working on this committee, and especially do I enjoy working with the chairman of my subcommittee that I rank on. And I continue to have some concerns, though, that we're calling it family support in my mind, as opposed to welfare that might be in some minds, and calling it work and welfare, I think takes away a bit of what we really do, and that is we try and provide support to needy families and for needy families. And I don't ever view that support as an alternative to work. I think that work is absolutely a virtue and it is necessary. I just hope that as we continue, and I think we've had a wonderful time, we've passed some meaningful legislation, and I just trust that we will be able to continue to do that, not be encumbered with this notion that somehow or another we are keeping people away from work. Work is valuable, but it's not really the purpose of our committee. So I thank you very much, and I yield back.
Additional members wish to strike the last word? Seeing none, we'll move to amendments. Are there any amendments? Seeing no amendments, I will now recognize Mr. Buchanan for the purpose of offering a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move the committee adopt the rules of the Committee on Ways and Means for the 119th Congress.
The question is on the motion to adopt the rules of the Committee on Ways and Means for the 119th Congress. All those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the yeses have it, and the rules of the Committee on Ways and Means are adopted. We will now ratify the subcommittee slates listing the chair for each subcommittee. Vern Buchanan, Health Subcommittee; Adrian Smith, Trade Subcommittee; Mike Kelly, Tax Subcommittee; David Schweikert, Oversight; Ron Estes, Social Security; Darren LaHood, Work and Welfare. Mr. Neal, would you please read your subcommittee ranking members into the record?
Quite pleased to offer the names that will serve as ranking members. Mr. Doggett of Texas will serve as the ranking member of the Health Subcommittee. Mr. Thompson of California will lead our work on tax policy. Congressman Larson of Connecticut will be ranking member on the Social Security Subcommittee. Danny Davis of Illinois will serve as the ranking member of the subcommittee formerly known as the Worker and Family Support Subcommittee. Congresswoman Sanchez, who late last year became the first Democratic woman to lead a Ways and Means subcommittee, will be the ranking member of the Trade Subcommittee. And Representative Terry Sewell of Alabama will be the ranking member of the Oversight Subcommittee. I congratulate all of you on ranking member and chairs and look forward to working with each of you.
The full subcommittee slates are entered into the record. Our next order of business is adoption of the Oversight and Authorization Plan for the 119th Congress. The committee's oversight plan for the 119th Congress demonstrates a deep commitment to ensuring this nation's government is working on behalf of the American people. It maintains our commitment to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars, including engaging with the incoming administration on the President's budget proposal and how it can improve the nation's economic as well as fiscal outlook. As the Chief Tax Writing Committee in all of Congress, we have a responsibility to perform robust oversight of the implementation and enforcement of our tax code in order to ensure it serves the American people. That starts today with a hearing, immediately following these proceedings, on the need to extend the expiring provisions of the 2017 Trump tax cuts. But developing the policy is one thing. We must also protect it from exploitation, particularly by certain tax-exempt organizations and fraudsters. Even in recent years, the IRS has had trouble maintaining its focus on this mission, and instead broke the trust of the American people with politicized leaks and unlawful actions. We look forward to working with the incoming Trump administration to hold that federal agency accountable. Given the vast jurisdiction of this committee over multiple federal agencies and departments, we will need to work closely with the Trump administration to make sure these entities are operating efficiently and effectively and delivering results. This will include collaborating with the newly created Department of Government Efficiency to help clean up agencies, departments, and programs to make them more streamlined, less duplicative, and more responsive to the needs of the American people. Our committee will work to advance better access to quality, affordable care for the millions of America's seniors on Medicare and folks with private health insurance coverage. This includes families who live in rural communities across the country and struggle to find even the most basic healthcare services. We need a pro-patient, pro-innovation healthcare system. This committee achieved historic bipartisan success in reauthorizing and modernizing our child welfare system to better the lives of millions of children and families. We must do more to promote the dignity of work, for the sake of the American taxpayer and those in need. We must rid these programs of fraud. We are committed to protecting and strengthening Social Security that will include ensuring the program is responsive to the needs of beneficiaries, that it deploys modern tools to protect against fraud and improper payments, and that it implements the laws Congress has passed properly and in a timely fashion. Finally, we will embrace our constitutional authority over the nation's trade policies to fight for America's workers and businesses, to ensure that existing trade laws and sanctions as well as trade agreements are enforced, particularly for America's farmers and ranchers. And we will combat the unfair trade practices of nations like China that attempt to stack the deck against the American people. There is no question that through this oversight plan, we will deliver for the American people. I'm pleased to recognize the ranking member from Massachusetts, Mr. Neal, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman. Committee Democrats look forward to working with our Republican counterparts to carry out appropriate oversight of laws and programs within the committee's jurisdiction, and also to remind members of this committee that we should not cede an inch in terms of jurisdiction as it relates to our constitutional obligations and responsibility on this committee. And that means for outside forces without portfolio, they're certainly free to make recommendations, but I think the governing principle here ought to remain within the framework of our obligations to the Constitution first. We have no objection to the draft oversight plan and hope that we can maintain a spirit of cooperation in pursuing perhaps one of the most important roles that the House of Representatives embraces, oversight of the executive.
The committee will now proceed to consideration of the Oversight and Authorization Plan for the 119th Congress. Without objection, the measure will be considered as read and open for amendment at any point. At this time, I offer an amendment in the nature of a substitute, which was distributed in advance along with a green sheet explaining it. Without objection, the amendment in the nature of a substitute shall be considered as read, open for amendment at any point, and considered base text for purpose of amendment. Does anyone wish to strike the last word? Seeing none, are there any amendments to the Oversight and Authorization Plan? Seeing none, the question is on the adoption of the amendment in the nature of a substitute. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the yeses have it, and the amendment in the nature of a substitute is agreed to. I will now recognize Mr. Buchanan for the purpose of offering a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move the committee adopt the Ways and Means Committee Oversight and Authorization Plan for the 119th Congress as amended.
The question is on the motion to adopt the Oversight and Authorization Plan as amended. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the yeses have it, and the Oversight and Authorization Plan as amended is adopted. Without objection, I ask that the staff be authorized to make technical and conforming changes to the Oversight and Authorization Plan, and that members have 2 additional days to file with the committee clerk supplemental additional dissenting or minority views. There being no further business before the committee stands adjourned.